Hello, Year 2. This week we are going to start a new writing project, and it is based on a really lovely picture book called Perdu. Before we start reading the story together, I just want you to think, what could this story be about? Perdu is a French word, so maybe you could pause the recording now and go and find out what it means. When you found out what Perdu means, then I want you to think, what clue could this be about the story? I wonder what it's about. So feel free to pause at this point, go and find out the meaning of Perdu, and then come back when you're ready. This is the back page of the book. And I wonder what and who the main character could be. Just take a minute now to read the blurb on the back and have a think. So the clue here is that we've got somebody who is very small, and it's a story about finding a place to call home. Interesting. Let's move on. Okay, this is the actual front cover. Now what do you think the story is going to be about? Pause the video now, and I want you to think or talk to somebody about, were you right first time? Did what you think the story was going to be about actually, are you sticking to that, or are you now changing your mind, and why? So Perdu is a wonderful story, and not only because the character in Perdu is so lovable, but the language within the story provides us with ideas that we can use in our own writing. Before we carry on and listen to the story, I want you to go and find a piece of paper, and I want you to copy out the grid below. You just need to take a piece of paper and write and draw 2 lines like this to create 4 boxes. Each box has got a different theme. Exciting descriptions that you spot in the story. Examples of show not tell. So rather than as the author saying his paws were cold, he's being much more descriptive. He's showing us that the paws were cold by saying the grass was cold beneath his paws. So that's show not tell. Onomatopoeia. There's lots of words in the story that sound, where the word sounds like the noise it's describing, such as bang or crash. And as you listen to the story, I want you to note down other examples that you spot of onomatopoeia. And then the final box is personification. Now, personification is when the author says that something that's not a person does something that a person would do. For example, the wind howled. Now, normally a person would howl. It's a noise a human makes. But the wind howled, and that's describing the wind as if it was a person. Other examples that you might come across in other stories could be things like the thunder crashed, or the fire roared. The fire isn't really roaring, but the roaring is describing the noise and the energy with which the fire is burning. Or the crash describes the loudness of the thunder. There's some great examples of personification in this story, and I want you to see if you can spot them and note them down. Now, the reason I'm getting you to do this as you're listening is for a couple of reasons, actually. One reason is it turns you into a really active listener. The other reason is you're going to be gathering up lots and lots of devices that this writer uses that you're going to borrow and apply in your own stories. So pause this recording now, go grab yourself a piece of paper and a pencil and copy out the grid I've shown you below. And when you've done that, you can then press resume and we'll carry on with the story. Perdu. The sky was dark, the wind howled, and so did Perdu. Poor Perdu, a little lost dog all alone, with no place to call home, and nothing to call his own but an old red scarf. Rain fell on his night-black coat, and the grass was cold beneath his paws. He watched a leaf tumble through the air and land with a whispery tap on the water. It danced in the current, spinning and turning as it floated away. That leaf has a place to be, thought Perdu. But what about me? Perdu decided to follow the leaf as it sailed on through woods, through grass short and tall. The night faded away, black became blue, and the sun began to rise. The gentle stream that had been his friend rushed and raced away from him, carrying his leaf out of sight. The ground beneath his paws felt different now. Tip, 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 went his claws on the city concrete. People rushed and raced around him. Everyone had somewhere to be. I must find my place, thought Perdu. I must find my somewhere. All day he searched, inside, outside, up and down, but there was no place for Perdu. Get out, they shouted. Go away. Shoo! Poor Perdu. His little legs ached, and his 4 paws were tired and sore. His tummy rumbled and grumbled. He had to find something to eat. Perdu slipped inside. Happy voices filled the warm air. Tick, clack, click went knives and forks. The food smelled wonderful. Crash, bump, clang. People growled and people barked. You silly dog, look what you've done. Perdu felt the hard cold of the window glass against his fur. There was nowhere to go. He cowered and trembled until, scared, he growled back. Scared, he snarled. Scared, he barked. Horrible animal, the people shouted. Run, dash, dodge, duck. Poor Perdu. Was there nowhere for him to belong? When at last he stopped, he found he was in a park, surrounded by tall, shadowy trees. He made himself a circle of pine cones, pebbles and leaves, and curled up tight in the middle, a scared little ball of worry. A leaf fell gently on the grass beside him, and he looked up. There was a little girl, and she was holding his scarf. Is this yours? She asked softly. Perdu looked into her kind eyes as she tied his scarf, and all at once he knew he was safe. Together they turned to leave. And at last Perdu had a place to call home. Thank you for listening to the story. I really hope you enjoyed it. So you should now have a collection of examples of effective story language that you noted down whilst you were listening. If you need to, go back and listen again and see if you can add to your list. When you've done that, I really want you to keep hold of your list, because that's going to be really, really useful for when you come to do your own writing later on this week. What I'd like you to do now is to complete the comprehension questions on your handout. I've published these for you on Class Dojo.